That's the perfect model, and Mike and I were talking about that. We're going to call that the Murray model.
They had a routine that was sort of a funny routine. I mean, they didn't just start shooting, and like a lot of kids, they just go out to the three-point line to warm up and hit threes and cool down. They had a routine that was very organized.
I missed the first initial workout when they worked out with Dan, and I walked in. When I walked in, there's throw up on the court.
The Leave Your Legacy Show is brought to you by Bravehearts TV. Bravehearts TV is dedicated to bringing stories of resilience, courage, and hope to their viewers. Their mission, to inspire, uplift, and empower their audience by highlighting real-life heroes and their journeys. In partnership with Bravehearts for Kids, you, the viewers, become catalysts for saving the lives of children facing pediatric cancer. You can start by simply downloading their network app on Roku or Amazon Fire TV. Please visit braveheartstv.org. Elevate with Robin. Elevate with Robin is a full-service brand marketing agency that specializes in developing purpose-driven brand identities. Elevate with Robin has the right blend of strategic thinking, creative courage, and commitment to elevate your brand with every interaction. Their mission? To empower brands to rise above their competition by creating powerful brand identities that resonate with their target audience. Visit elevatewithrobin.com. Welcome to the Leave Your Legacy Show. I'm your host, Kenyon Murray, and today we are in Daytona Beach, Florida at DME Sports Academy, where Kris and Keegan's NBA journey started. Let's go. Welcome to the show. We've got two unbelievable guests to start our segment and our episode on DME Sports Academy. We have Mike and Dan Panaggio. And so first thing, I want you guys to tell our audience a little bit about yourself, and we'll start with you, Mike.
Okay, one of my favorite subjects. So, first of all, thank you. This is an honor to be here with you. You've played a big part in DME Academy's growth, and we're just thrilled to be here with you today. A little bit about myself. Oldest of 6 kids. My second brother is sitting here right next to me. Grew up in a family that was dominated by our father, who was a very passionate basketball coach. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I remember is if you wanted to spend time with Dad, you played basketball. Okay. I was lucky because I had about a 2.5-year start on Dan, so I got a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. And so basketball and the concept, the philosophy, and what it builds, the sacrifice, the intensity, all those things was passed on, maybe through the genes, but also certainly by the example that was set by my father and my mother, who were very passionate about excellence. I chose, when I got a little bit older, I played basketball in high school and was good enough to be able to play in college, and had a reasonably good career. Yeah. I chose not to go into basketball. I didn't quite like the situation where it was a lot of politics. Yeah. So I decided I was going to go into business. And so I took a different route. I went into business. I've been very successful in business, very happy. And I've used a lot of the types of methods that you have in basketball. You know, I'm very hokey. I run my company like it's a big team. I'm the coach. I've got to, you have to have the right competition. You got to recruit well, all those things. Yeah. But overall, pretty happy guy, and continue to have Dan and I are building quite a legacy company here in the name of DME Academy. Yeah. And we were fortunate enough to have 2 fabulous kids called Kris and Keegan Murray. Yeah. And even more fabulous, we had Michelle and Kenyon. So that's a little bit about Mike Panaggio.
All right. Well, okay. You're the next brother, Dan. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I want to just say something about Mike. He said that he went away from basketball. Well, he did. Yeah. But he didn't go completely away from it, because right now he's just absolutely thrilled to be involved in basketball again, but as well as other sports. Mm-hmm. And I spent my whole life coaching, and so I'm not as an enthusiastic fan as he is, because you're talking about thousands and thousands of games that I've been involved in. But so Mike has absolutely surpassed me in that regard. He'll go to 2 college basketball games on a Saturday afternoon. Mm. He'll go from one to the other. So, and I think that was part of the reason that we're doing what we're doing now, because I spent my whole life coaching, and I was at the tail end of my career, and we decided that we would do something really fun together. And we had the opportunity through the building that houses our two largest gymnasiums and our shooting lab. And we just said, let's have some fun, let's do it, let's go out with a bang. Yeah. So that's kind of how we got started. But my whole thing has been coaching, as you know, Kenyon, because at one point I drafted a young shooting guard out of the University of Iowa who is much better than people now, people forget quickly, but you were the star, one of the 2 or 3 stars of that very good Iowa basketball team. So that's what I did. I worked my way up the ranks from, I was a college graduate assistant and a high school coach, a junior college coach, minor league coach, and then a college coach. And then eventually I was blessed enough to hook on to the NBA game and spent some time in Portland, Oregon, 4 years with the Trailblazers. So I know some of the things that Kris is going through quite well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. But we've talked so much about, DME and what it meant to Kris and Keegan, but it's grown so much. But I wanted to ask Mike, what was the inspiration? You touched on it a little bit, Dan, but what was the inspiration to creating DME Sports Academy?
I'm not sure we had an actual lightning bolt hit us with the inspiration. I think it was the evolution. Dan's right. I mean, he was really the sort of the inspiration because he had the ability to. He just had the vision of how to do things NBA style. And I said to Dan, if we're going to do it, let's do it really excellence. That's what we got to aim for. So. We took this little cement court and started to build it into a replica tried to make a replica of the LA practice facility that he had worked at for 4 years and contributed to the Lakers' success. And so that's what started it. Yeah. And then in 2015, we had a PG only program, no school. In 2016, we started, we bought some condos and started housing. And then later on, my son Matt hooked us up with a group from South Florida, and we were able to get visas, for international kids. And today we've got 46 different countries represented at DME, and it's quite the melting pot. Yeah. And it's just a great place to be. There's just a lot of energy, and I can't say that there was any big time inspiration. Right. It was just something that evolved, over time, and it's continuing to evolve. I think their best work is still in front of us. We're very proud. I mean, Dan wants to win a championship. I want to win a championship, and I'm not talking about high school championship. I'm talking about we just want to aim for excellence, and that's what we're doing.
I love it. And you're the visionary, and you're talking about you got some things going on in France and Spain. So what's your vision for DME? Maybe more on the basketball side, because it's grown so much since Kris and Keegan were here. You've expanded, like Mike said, 46 countries represented. So what's your vision for DME moving forward? Okay,
so and I can't claim it as solely my vision, and it didn't start as like Mike said. It was where opportunity knocks and just measuring out opportunities. So all of these opportunities still present themselves with different sports and people with great ideas. And then Mike and I will bang it around for a while. And does this make sense? Yeah. Now, some of the things have turned out to be very successful, but we've also had some things that we kind of say, what were we thinking? Yeah. But basketball is the core of how we started and really what we're known for today, and we're known globally. Like Mike said, we have 46 countries representative. Most of those kids are basketball players. Mm-hmm. So, having worked for Phil Jackson and his mentor, which was Tex Winter, and then our father was a great basketball coach in his own right. We felt like we had something special to offer to the kids. And it wasn't just basketball fundamentals. And by the way, Tex Winter is about as good as it comes when it comes to basketball fundamentals and a basketball system of play.
Yeah.
But it was the holistic approach. And we're going to get into Kris and Keegan a little bit, I'm sure, here in a minute. But the one thing that Kris and Keegan, the kind of the change that they made to the thinking that Mike and I had was, here is two talented guys under the radar, maybe a little bit under the radar because they weren't boisterous. They weren't blowing their own horn. They weren't, just to give you a real crazy thing, Dennis Rodman really did a great job of marketing himself, but it was so absurd.
Yeah.
Right? These guys were quiet and under the radar. But what really happened, Kenyon, is what we saw as an ideal family. And a family that knew how to cultivate the skills and the personalities and the character of their children that we kind of took as a model. And we're going to use that model here on moving forward.
Yeah, I love it. And you talk about, when you talk prep school and you talk Kris Keegan, like, we know the impact that it has on American-born players. But with 46, what's the impact that DME is having on a national scale when it comes to providing opportunities for these kids that you maybe target overseas or want to come here? Like, where do you see? I mean, it has to be amazing to be able to help a kid from another country come here, not only get, be able to play, but then to get an education. So what's the impact DME's had internationally?
So the impact internationally is these kids, everybody wants to come to America. And just take a look at our southern border and you'll see the influx of people. And why not? Right. It's the land. It's always been the land of opportunity. So these kids want to come here. They want, our economy is good, life is good. Yeah. They want to make a living here. And so we are the gateway, really. We're the gateway for opportunity. As these kids come here, and a lot of them think that they can win a scholarship to a Division I, Division II school to maybe pay for their education so that they can make a good living for their family. But coming here, there's so many things that are different than in their own country. Right. The basketball, as you know, Kenyon, is completely different. It's a very fast, physical, athletic game. It's different than what they're used to. So if they come over here for a couple of years, they get to train and learn and maybe close that gap a little bit. Also, there's language issues. Some of them don't have complete command of the English language, so it's an opportunity there. But it's also culturally, it's different here than it is in many of these countries. Especially, we've got kids from Asia, we got kids from the Middle East, we got kids from South America, as well as Europe. So it's a chance to blend into the culture, learn the basketball dialect or language. So it's that total immersion into what America's like before the opportunity knocks to go to a university.
I love that. And you did say it. So yeah, we'll get into Kris and Keegan a little bit here. I mean, DME was a springboard. I mean, I don't, without DME, I don't know that they are where they are today. And there were some things that I didn't know. It was really a big, leap of faith. Obviously, we felt comfortable, but, Mike, what are some of the memories you have of Kris and Keegan? And they can be from just a personality or things that you saw as far as their time here and how they grew, or from the basketball side. But what are some of your fondest memories of the boys being here?
First of all, great kids, very humble. They led by example. They weren't, as I said, throwing their hands up all over the place. Right. You know what I really noticed? Of course, there's some ideal games. I mean, IMG at that point had just tremendous, number one team in the country. We go down to IMG, we play them down there, and we get murdered. Yeah. 30 points. Yeah. We come back to DME, and it was one of the greatest games I've ever seen. Overtime game, we win 113-112. Yeah. I also remember a Daytona State game where we've never beat Daytona State. They've got typically 7-8 Division I kids on their team. Yeah. And we're up by 10 points with 8 minutes to go. We end up losing 87-83. Yeah. But they just set the world on fire. But I tell you what I really remember most. I mean, certainly I remember, Keegan averaged 22 and a half a game, and Kris was right behind him at around 18. They were just top players, great shooting, but their time that they spent in the gym, putting shots up, they each had a great practice partner, each other.
Yeah, they'll admit that too.
built-in great practice partners, and they had a routine that was sort of a funny routine. I mean, they didn't just start shooting and like a lot of kids, they just go out to the three-point line to warm up and hit threes and fool around. They had a routine that was very organized. I don't really know where it came from. Probably you know.
Just a little bit.
but the fact is they had that routine and they didn't waver.
Right.
Now, I didn't work them out. I mean, Matt spent time with them and Alex spent time with them and certainly others, Dan spent time with them. I'm not the basketball guy.
Yeah.
But just great kids. And I remember watching many, many games because they were exciting games. Everybody wanted to be at those games because they had a great team and we had two kids that could really light it up from outside.
Yeah.
And I'd sit with Michelle, watch games. But, again, humility, that was it. And I think it's going to go a long way for those two.
I appreciate it. And Dan, I mean, you worked him out. You made Keegan throw up on his visit. But more importantly, like, what did you see this in them? Like, that's the one thing, like, even as their dad and having coached them for so long, like, I thought that they could be really good players. But I think coming here, one, it separated me from them and it allowed other people to pour into them like you and Coach West, obviously. Did you see their potential for where they are right now? Or was it something that just, even you were like, I don't know, they might be good D1 players, but what did you see in Kris and Keegan?
Okay, all right. So I'd love to tell you, Kenyon, I saw it all coming down the pike.
Right.
I'd love to do that, but I got to be honest. Yeah. Here's what I did see. I saw what kind of crazy college coaches out there weren't all over these kids. That part I did see because the one thing that they came here with, the intangibles. And I knew they would because I knew your history, right? But they came here with the intangibles. And so what that means is if you guys, if they are well behaved, if they're intelligent, if they're agile, if they're, if they have great coordination and they have skills and practice habits, then they have the capacity to get better, the capacity to improve. So here you got 2 6'7", 6'8" guys that come into your gym. You could see that they were not buff, right?
Yeah.
They were young. they still were young boys.
Yeah.
They hadn't become men yet, but the skill level is very high. So, when somebody said they've only got one scholarship offer, I said, well, there's some. I hate to use the word dumb, but there's some dumb coaches out there. So we knew immediately that they were going to be successful. We knew that they were going to be bona fide Division I players. Yeah. But to say that we knew that they were, to say that they were going to be NBA players or NBA starters or NBA impact players, that's a stretch. I got to admit that I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, and that was the one thing I thought. They grew more, obviously the physical part of it, they grew. You guys had a great program here. I know Tom Shaw was running the program then. But I knew one thing Coach West said was it was from the neck up was where they were going to make the difference. And, just their growth. I know I saw it from the time they started to the time. But, did you guys, was that part of it too, just seeing, hey, they've improved not only physically, but they've improved mentally over the year? Because Coach West was pretty keen on making sure from the neck up they got better.
Intensity. I mean, that's what we saw. They had an intense program. Yeah. They didn't have a lot of situations that were taking them away from the game. They didn't have a lot of distractions. And as I said, what impressed me was their commitment. They loved the gym. Yeah. And you know what? The gym sometimes tires you out. Yeah. But they fight through it. They sacrificed. They chose excellence. And I think that came... the more I got to learn about you and Michelle and even McKenna, I understood where it came from. And it's such an important thing. Dan's right. We saw that they had from the neck up. They were smart kids. They were humble kids. They were going to get it done. They were not going. It's like they were playing for their family. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing. But they had a family. So many kids don't have a strong family unit. The European kids that come over and the international kids, I say, do. Now, my wife and I last year spent about 4 weeks traveling. And we actually visited with a total of 22 families overseas.
Okay.
And so we get an idea of what we're dealing with. And I travel around the world. I've been Congo, Africa, all over the place. Dan runs camps. Matt goes out and runs camps. I'm not qualified to run a camp. I'm qualified to watch a camp. But I love talking to the parents and really trying to understand what they want for their kid. And they love their children. That's the big thing. We all love our children, and they want what's best. They're not saying, I want my kid to be an NBA player. Sure, that's a great thing, but we're talking about 0.001.
Yeah.
And so we've got to make sure that they're ready for the world too, that we provide them with alternatives, because not every kid is going to be a first-round draft pick.
Right.
And so we're proud of the job that we do here. We really think we contribute to their long-term growth and their long-term future and help them with purpose.
Yeah, and I love it. And we talked about it earlier about Michelle coming down here and being here. We had this conversation, so I want you to share that with the audience too, of how you felt with Michelle coming down here and being with the boys, how you felt like that was a huge contribution to the boys' success and obviously where they are now.
That's the perfect model, and Mike and I were talking about that. We're going to call that the Murray model. Now, the Murrays are a fortunate family. They can do that. Not every family is going to be able to do that, but having Michelle come down and find a place for the kids, so that the kids were, not that our student housing is a bad thing,
right,
but it's not like Mama's home cooking, right? Yeah. And then Mama's supervising, just what time they get up, what time they go to bed, how they live their life, how they prepare. Because kids they were 18-year-old kids. Yeah. That's just a great way to approach this whole thing. We're going to try to encourage other families that are able to do that, to make that move, because we think that's the best chance for success, is to it's that transition time, because what we call this is a gap year.
Yep.
It's a transition year.
Yep.
So what better way to transition than to have Mama come down and Papa occasionally and help transition the young man from the high school world to the college world.
Yeah, I love it.
And you know what? The way I saw it, just in a couple of words, is that Michelle was able to ruthlessly eliminate disadvantages. And that allowed them not to be roaming around and getting into this and getting into that. They had this singular focus. And Dan's right. I mean, they're eating right, they're sleeping right, they're thinking right, they're working out right. It was a perfect storm for them.
Yeah.
And they took advantage of it. But it took sacrifice from the family, because you guys were separated for months.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. It was a huge sacrifice for the family.
Absolutely. And Michelle talks about that all the time, just the sacrifice. It's different, right? Every family makes sacrifices and things like that for their kids, but it was a little bit different. But, I think the best way that you, have honored, what Kris and Keegan meant to the program was retiring their jerseys. And so I wanted to ask, was that a hard decision to make, and really what went into you guys wanting to honor the boys that way?
Well, let's face it, it's an honor to have those two young guys call DME, their home for 1 year.
Yeah.
Look what they've been able to accomplish. And so we're very proud, and we want nothing more than to be totally connected as much as we can with the Murray family. Because just like Dan said, we want to make that an entire program, because it worked. Now, granted, you had some talent, you had some size. There were some advantages there, but that's okay. And to retire their jersey was something real special. Keegan had just signed his contract. He had just been the 4th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And when Michelle called, and I talked to Michelle, and she said, that we will come down. I thought it was, you and Michelle coming down. I said, it's great. He said, no, we're bringing the whole family down.
Yeah.
And then we said, let's make sure that this goes well. Get you to the beach, make sure it's fun. Then the girlfriends came down too, who were fine young women too. It's just you know, it's the law of attraction.
Yeah.
Positive attracts positive, you know, and we're just thrilled. We're just thrilled to be part of it.
As far as the retiring,
Yeah.
no brainer. Okay, because because obviously Keegan was fourth guy picked in the draft. He had made a huge impact. However, we got a little push. Okay, and you know where we got our push?
Where's that?
The young lady sitting in the gallery right now, right?
Yeah,
Haley,
yeah.
Matt's wife, Haley. She was going to make sure that it happened, and it happened right away. And she may be the one who's closest to the two young men more so than anybody else. Yeah. So we didn't have a choice, really.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on. Like, this is so special, such a great opportunity, not only to come back and see you guys, but really to show and tell the world, just how important DME was for us. And you guys got a lot of great things going on here. So once again, I want to say thank you for everything you did for Kris and Keegan, and thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you.
We had fun. We had fun.
Awesome.
Great time.
We'll be right back with our next guest. Well, welcome back to the show. And we have a couple guests that definitely had a direct impact on Kris and Keegan coming to DME, Alex Piggott and Matt Panaggio. So once again, tell our guests a little bit about you and what positions you hold here at DME. I know, Alex, you took a little hiatus and came back, but we'll start with Matt. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Matt Panaggio. I'm the son of Mike and nephew of Dan. So family business here, and my cousin Mike is also coaching here as well. I coach our boys' high school national team now, and also director of our basketball program. I was here when Keegan and Kris came. I was new to the program, fresh out of college. So it was a really cool experience. Just jumping into the basketball world after playing it my whole life and being kind of on the flip side of coaching. Yeah. And getting a chance to work with those two guys and the rest of the group that we had that year was a really fun year.
Yeah. And Alex, I mean, you were the guy. Like you were the connector for the Murray family and DME. But tell our audience a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously I'm Alex Piggott, director of postgrad here at DME. Just a basketball life for a journeyman. Obviously when introduced to you guys and the Murray family, I was just an intern here at DME 7 years ago and transitioning into a new role with DME. But yeah, like I said, just had an awesome opportunity to meet you, get to know you guys, a couple Midwestern folks, just getting to know each other. And had an opportunity to convince you guys to come take a visit, and then the rest was history. So.
Yeah. And we were talking too. It was one of those things that we had touched base, and we were actually connected through a coach that took a job in Iowa. Yep. And he had asked, and he connected you and I. And I know I was trying to figure out what the heck this whole post-grad and prep school thing was. And we hadn't talked for a while, and then you sent me a text, and I'm like, we're going to come down. But was it one of those things you're like, it's kind of fly by night, we'll probably never see him? Like when I hadn't responded to you, like, what were you thinking?
I think for a while there, sure, was just like, let's throw this into the wind and see what happens, see if it gets caught. And obviously it took a little while, but obviously I want to mention Coach John Wyndham too. Obviously he's the guy that got us connected. Yeah. But it was the biggest thing was just wanted to shoot you guys a wholehearted message, just saying, hey, like, this is the opportunity we have down here. I know you guys are looking for an opportunity to get exposed. Yeah. We have that platform here. It's in a different part of the country, and we've got all the resources for those guys to be successful. And you eventually texted me back, and we got you guys down here. And it was like I said, it was a great experience getting to know you guys over the phone. And then once we met you in person, it was like magic. So
yeah, that's awesome. And man, so what were your first impressions? Obviously, Kris and Keegan, honestly, they were like, Dad, we're not. They were thinking, Dad is crazy. There's no way we're going to Florida. But what were your first impressions of Kris and Keegan from the visit to when they stepped on campus and started working out?
Well, on the visit, they were long, dangly, kids. I think actually they've grown since they left DME.
Yeah, a little bit.
I think they were probably about 6'7" at the time. And watching them play, you could see that they had all the talent in the world. Mm-hmm. They knew how to play. They just know the game. Yeah. For their size and their skill. I think that physically not quite mature when they arrived here. Yeah. And they matured a lot in their year. But you could see that they had a bright future. I always think it's hilarious. I'll never forget. I missed the first initial workout when they worked out with Dan. And I walked in. When I walked in, there's throw up on the court. So it was hilarious.
Yeah.
So from the visit, and then when they got on campus, I got to be honest, Kenyon, for the first month, I couldn't tell which one was which. Which is so funny now because it's so obvious for me now.
Yeah.
But after the first month, I could figure out which one was which, and like my dad and Dan said, they were very methodical with their approach to the game, and I think that is the reason that I believe that they're so successful. Mm-hmm. We gave them an opportunity here to have access to a gym and whatever they wanted, to have structured coaching with Coach West, who I think also really impacted them. But their approach to the game, they did everything the same every day.
Yeah.
They never missed a practice. They never missed a game. They were probably pretty tired along the way, sore, post-grad basketball, you're playing all day. But, they were really motivated. And I think that their routine is the reason why they're so successful.
Yeah, and you've seen post-grad players and things like that. Is there anything that, after seeing their story, meeting them and those kinds of things, is there anything that you see that's maybe different about them? Because, coming in, you've seen a lot of talented guys come post-grad, probably more athletic, bigger, faster, stronger. But what do you feel Kris and Keegan have that's a little bit different that has allowed them not only have the success here and then go on to Iowa, but also reach the level of the NBA?
Absolutely. And so, I mentioned this, obviously I wasn't here for their year.
Right.
But I did spend a lot of time with the next year I was at Montverde Academy, got to spend some time with some guys that did go on to play in the pros as well. And there's a lot of similarities between the two. They have what I call a pro mindset.
Yeah.
Everything they do is professional. When they're walking in the gym, when they're walking around, whatever they do, there's meaning behind it. Like it's dedicated, it's focused, they're holding themselves accountable. It's not I'm begging you guys to get in the gym before practice and get 500 shots up. It's not, we got a lunch break, let's get 150 shots up. They're doing it. You don't even have to question it. And so I think that was the biggest thing that was different about those guys. They had a goal in mind, and nobody was getting in the way from them achieving that.
I love that. And Matt, you mentioned Coach West.
Mm-hmm.
And I know part of the process here was there's a board, and you guys go in and you talk about, are we gonna take these guys, or are we gonna take one or the other? But I know Coach West wanted both of them, and there was something that he saw in them. From your standpoint, obviously it was your first year on the other side of it, but how impactful do you think Coach West was to the boys and their development? Because I know Kris and Keegan give him so much props, and for me too, that's the first time I wasn't their coach.
Yeah.
And they had a different coach that wasn't me. So, just tell us a little bit about the impact you think Coach West had on them.
I think Coach West, first off, had an impact on myself, and I know on Alex too.
Absolutely.
So I think that, we learned a lot from him in our entire basketball program. But I think the biggest thing that I saw Coach West change in those two boys was their mentality, from going from, super skilled, talented guys to really confident basketball players and aggressive. I would really key in on the aggressive piece because they had the ability, before they got to DME. But I think that they turned from really good skilled players to really confident and just nasty a little bit, Although they're the nicest guys off the court. On the court, they're not going to show you, like my dad says, they're not going to do all these crazy hand signs after they score. But they're nasty, and aggressive. And I always thought Coach West kind of got that out of him, and he really forced kind of Keegan to become the scorer that I think he is today.
Yeah.
And it's not because he taught him how to shoot or taught him how to score, but it was the mentality of, being that aggressive guy.
Yeah, I love that.
While we're on the West too, I recall, obviously, when I departed, me and West still talked constantly about everything. About a week or two, the guys being in here, and this is West had a vision. He said, these two guys are going to be pros. Like he had that vision from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it's just funny now to see how everything's worked out.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think, that's the thing too, is it was good for the boys to get away from me and have somebody else pour into them, but then to have him see it, because honestly, I was like, I thought they could be Division I players.
Yeah.
And I would be lying if I said that I saw this.
Yep.
But I think it's what you said, Matt, about the mentality. And you can see that at times. Sometimes they revert back to, but, they're in the NBA and they're playing against the best of the best. But you're absolutely right, man. That mindset, I thought that's what Wes said had to change for them to reach their potential. So that's really key. And Alex, you mentioned that you took a stint away.
Yep,
You
I
left.
Sure did.
Went to Mount Verdi, obviously a great program. You spent last year in Washington. So what has it meant for you to come back to DME as a post-grad director and head coach?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just the knowledge and the experience I gained being away, I think especially for a young coach like myself, being around as many good coaches as you can be is always beneficial. And that's what I was, whether it was Mike Hopkins at Washington, Bruce Weber at K-State, Kevin Boyle at Mount Verdi, like you're talking about people there who are top of the top, highest of the highs. And it's awesome to be able to take a lot of the things that I learned from them and kind of impart it on the kids that we have here at DME now. And it's like I said, it's always trending upwards with us in the post-grad program. And it's really cool that we have an opportunity to kind of have a college feel for all these guys. They're getting a college level education both on and off the floor too. So
I love that. Well, Matt, I mean, it's, I was telling my camera guy coming in, James, like, Kris is on the bus, here. We've seen Keegan on some of the flyers and stuff like that, that you guys use. What has been the impact of Kris and Keegan's success here at DME? And I think, we ran into a couple of kids today and they knew who Kris and Keegan were, but what have you seen as far as their success and where they are? How has that impacted the student athletes that you have here?
Well, first off, the most fun part for I think all of us here at DME is to see the success of not just Kris and Keegan, but all of our athletes when they go off to college.
Right.
And we have kids at Division II schools, kids at Division III schools, and we love to keep up with how they do. Yeah. Now, Kris and Keegan, of course, their success, although they're 23 years old, their success is great already. And hopefully for much longer. But to be able to turn on the TV and see their draft day, and to get a chance to see Keegan go 4th pick in the NBA draft, and then Kris a year later, 23rd pick, that was amazing. And then now to be able to turn on an NBA game, although they're a little late for us.
I know us too.
It's a little late for us, but I'll tell you what, my family, myself, Haley, all of us here at DME, we love watching them play. Yeah. And I know for sure, as soon as the NBA schedule comes out, those Orlando Magic games are circled because we will not schedule anything during the time they're here. But overall, they're just awesome kids to root for. Yeah. Because of all the impact they made on of course our staff here, but also our players that are here now and future players that get a chance to see. When you do things the right way, things work out. That doesn't mean they're going to make it to the NBA, but they're going to have success. Yeah.
Well, Alex, hey, without you, none of this happens. But, as a post-grad coach too, that's where Kris and Keegan, they wanted that opportunity for exposure. Is that something that you can now key on and use as whether it's a recruitment tool or, hey, it doesn't matter where you come in at, like you can achieve whether it's Division I or whatever. Is that something that you can pull on just based off of what Kris and Keegan
have done? Absolutely. And like I said before, we utilize this as a platform. We give you all the tools you need to be successful. It's just whether or not you go out and use those tools. And Kris and Keegan are obviously a top example of what can happen when you do follow the path. You stay away from the things that may deter you a little bit, and you just stay on path and so forth. And they're obviously the top-notch example, but even their example has gone on to help kids go on to be successful at Division II schools and have successful careers playing college or even in life. Just the mindset they have about basketball is something that translates into other walks of life too. So
I appreciate it, man. Like I said, DME is part of the story, and it would not have happened for any of them without any of you. We really appreciate it. I know Michelle and I talk about it all the time, because it was a sacrifice, but they took a leap of faith. You guys took a leap of faith on them, and so I just want to say thank you again, because without you guys and this entire organization, I know Kris and Keegan would be where they are today. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Enjoyed it. Absolutely.
I want to thank everyone from DME Sports Academy for coming on the Leave Your Legacy show. It was great going down memory lane to see where Kris and Keegan's NBA journey started. I'm your host, Kenyon Murray. Let's keep connecting.
Iowa Sports Supply. Iowa Sports Supply in Cedar Falls, Iowa has all of your school sporting goods and corporate business apparel needs. Anything from jerseys, sports equipment, to online fan apparel stores. Remember to check out their website at iowasports.com or give them a call at 319-268-0125 and ask for Alex. This podcast is sponsored by Storyline Multimedia. Storyline is an Iowa City-based media company that specializes in creating high-quality video, photo, and audio production for local businesses. They also work with college athletes and connect local business with NIL opportunities. They also produce a number of hit podcasts, including this one. So if you're interested in sharing the story of your business with the world, contact them today by visiting StorylineMultimedia.com. And remember, your story matters.